sodomizing Palestinian detainees who are charged with no crimes whatsoever, putting hot rods up their rectums, amputating their limbs according to CNN.
What's good, people? Tonight, we got Mehdi Hasan on the mic, and let me tell you, he's not pulling punches. He's standing 10 toes down, calling out the Zionist narrative right there on stage. No spin, no filters, just facts and fire. He's laying out exactly why Israel's actions in this war don't add up, and if you've got a heart, it's going to hit you hard. Let's get into it.
In response, Israel's actions are to target Hamas's terrorists and to take unprecedented efforts to keep their civilians safe from their own leader's sick strategy to sacrifice them on the altar of jihad. That's why it keeps repeatedly urging them to get out of harm's way from Hamas strongholds and flooding the area with over 1 million tons of aid, because it keeps saying this is a war against Hamas, not the people of Gaza. Now, the suffering of my neighbors in Gaza is horrific. I blame their psychopath leaders for launching this war, fighting it inside civilian areas, and refusing to release the hostages and surrender. Now, tonight's debate is about whether Israel's actions in the war in Gaza are justified, in a context in which I hope we can all agree none of the enemy's actions are justified. Because we are fighting a jihadist army that has as much respect for humanity and law as Mehdi Hasan has for the truth. Mehdi may say, I condemn Hamas's acts on October 7th, but he will not condemn its strategy because he is part of its strategy. Hamas is counting on its defense attorney to shield it from the consequences of the war that it started and deflect blame onto Israel so it can do October 7th again, maybe because they share a goal that Israel shouldn't exist. Mehdi Hasan will say tonight that October 7th does not justify Israel's actions in this horrible war. My question then is this.
Ilan, I'm sorry, your time is up.
What does October 7th?
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Mehdi? Ilan, in already calling your opponent a liar, you have already crossed one of the lines of the culture that we try to establish here. I wish you hadn't.
You don't... I don't mind. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I can do that.
You don't need to do that to make your case.
See, I had to play that clip of Elon because what he said right there, that wasn't a defense. That was a deflection, a distraction. It's the same tired tactic. Wrap the whole thing in smoke and mirrors and pretend Israel deserves some kind of moral exception. They twist themselves into knots trying to justify the unjustifiable. And let's be real. There is nothing they can say that makes the mass killing of innocent civilians okay. You don't get to sugarcoat slaughter.
Mehdi Hasan, you are answering no in answer to the question, were Israel's actions in the Gaza war justified?
All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, the question, were they justified? Were the actions justified?
And it would be great if you didn't feel the need to respond to the personal attack, because it'll waste
We'll
time.
decide when we get there, John. Were they justified? No, obviously not. Of course not. October the 7th, I think we can all agree, was a crime, a war crime, right? We can all agree on that. And taking hostages is a war crime. And those hostages should be released. But to destroy an entire place, an entire people in response is never justified. Never justified. How are we still I don't understand how we're debating this more than 40,000 deaths later. I don't understand how we're still debating this sitting in the comfort of New York, 7,000 miles away from a place that the UN Secretary General has called hell on earth. Justified? Justified? Was Israel justified in carrying out one of the most intense civilian punishment campaigns in history, according to Dr. Robert Pape at the University of Chicago, dropping 500-pound bombs, 1,000-pound bombs, 2,000-pound bombs on schools, hospitals, universities, bookstores, libraries, mosques, churches, refugee camps, apartment buildings, cemeteries, destroying a higher percentage of buildings in northern Gaza than the Allies destroyed in Dresden during World War II, reducing Gaza to 42 million tons of rubble while they got people out of the way? How is that justified? Dropping a bomb, for example, on a 6-story apartment building in central Gaza last October, killing more than 100 people inside, including more than 50 children, with no Hamas target in sight, according to Human Rights Watch, with no explanation offered by the Israeli military. Even till today, was that justified, Elon? Was Israel justified in telling people to go to safe zones and then bombing them and killing them in those safe zones? According to NBC, there were 7 deadly airstrikes between January and April in areas that the Israeli military had specifically designated as safe zones, killing Palestinian civilians like Sabrine Sakani, who was 30 weeks pregnant at the time. She was killed in a safe zone in April. Her little baby, newborn.
Any diehard Israel supporter hearing this right now, they already tuned out, didn't hear a word. Mehdi could lay out fact after fact, show them bodies, name the children, and still, they'd shrug. You know why? Because for them, it's not about truth, it's not about justice. It's about clinging to a position no matter how many innocent lives it costs. You watch their faces, blank, numb. That's how they survive this narrative. They have to shut their conscience off completely. Because if they let it in for even a second, they'd have to admit they're defending the indefensible. And that's something they're just not ready to face.
Baby died less than a week later. Was that justified too, Elon? Was Israel justified in killing a record number of kids in Gaza, 16,000 children, turning Gaza into what the UN has called a graveyard for children, according to Save the Children, killing more kids in the first 3 weeks that were killed globally in each of the past 4 years, killing little kids like 6-year-old Hind Rajab and her 15-year-old sister Leanne, firing 335 bullets into the car they were in. 335 bullets. And then killing the 2 paramedics who went to try and rescue them. Was that justified too, Elon? Was Israel justified in killing a record number of aid workers in Gaza? Right? A record number. Targeting again and again, systematically, car by car, according to Chef Jose Andres. A specifically, explicitly marked World Central Kitchen aid convoy killing 7 aid workers in the process. Was that justified? Was Israel justified in starving the people of Gaza, using food and water as a weapon of war, to quote both the EU and Oxfam? Was Israel justified in blocking aid trucks from going into Gaza simply because they carry things like crutches, nail clippers, and even chocolate croissants, according to the Washington Post? Was Israel justified in raping, sodomizing Palestinian detainees who were charged with no crimes whatsoever? Putting hot rods up their rectums, amputating their limbs, according to CNN and the New York Times. Was that rape and torture justified, Elon? Israel, according to the ICC chief prosecutor, who put out a statement calling for the arrest of Elon's former boss, Benjamin Netanyahu, said that Israel may have military goals, legitimate goals, but the way they're carried out, killing innocent people, starving people, is criminal, he said. Criminal, think about that. Elon Levy is a former spokesperson for a man who the ICC chief prosecutor once arrested for war crimes. Elon himself has produced a number of lies, sorry John, in service of those war crimes. He has a bunch of tweets still up tonight which say that babies were beheaded on October the 7th, babies were baked in ovens, babies were ripped from their mother's wombs. October 7th was bad enough, but Elon had to exaggerate it for atrocity purposes. Those tweets are still up. Why would you trust anything this man says to you tonight? Look, he's here.
Let me take a second and say something real. Mehdi Hasan deserves his flowers. Why? Because unlike most, he ain't out here making excuses. He's not sugarcoating Hamas. He's not dancing around the fact that both sides have done wrong. He's saying it plain. What Hamas did was horrific. But then he does what so few are willing to do. He shifts the spotlight to what's still happening right now. You've got Gaza turned to rubble. You've got people, actual people, being starved, bombed, erased from the map. You've got a military locking out journalists, so the truth dies before it's ever seen. You've got families cut off from food and water. You've got land stolen inch by inch until the only thing left for Palestinians is a grave or a cage. And somehow, people still sit there and say, yeah, but Israel has the right to defend itself. Defend itself from what? 6-year-olds under collapsed schools? And it gets worse. Some of the very people in Israel's own military leadership have admitted it. This is ethnic cleansing. That's not activist language. That's not opinion. That's the people running the show, admitting what's being done. And yet, we've still got folks clinging to this idea that it's complicated, that there are 2 sides. No. Mehdi said it best. One side is dropping bombs. One side is flattening neighborhoods. One side is pushing a people to the edge of existence. And the wild part is, he's not asking you to pick a team. He's asking you to look at the suffering and call it what it is, unjustifiable. And still, in the face of all that, people justify, they excuse, they pretend not to see, because that's the only way you can keep defending the death of innocent people, by pretending it's not happening.
He's here to gaslight you. to defend the indefensible, to excuse the inexcusable, to justify the unjustifiable, but you don't need to. Tonight you can choose to be on the side not of cruelty, not of criminality, but on the side of the innocent people of Gaza who are being killed as we speak tonight, as we speak, by Elon's former colleagues in the Israeli military on the orders of Elon's former bosses in the Israeli government. So yes, I choose to oppose this horrific and homicidal motion. Thank you.
So that's it, y'all. Mehdi Hasan didn't just debate, he dismantled. He peeled back every layer of spin, every excuse, every tired talking point, and laid the truth bare. Now sure, some folks will say, it's complicated, but tell me, what's complicated about dead children, about families buried under rubble, about civilians being starved, bombed, and erased while the world watches in silence? This ain't about Hamas. Mehdi made that clear. The crimes being committed right now aren't hitting militants. They're hitting mothers, babies, teachers, aid workers. So don't tell me it's complicated when the victims are this clear and the pain is this loud. You can try to politicize it, rationalize it, spin it, but at the end of the day, innocent blood is being spilled, and that should never be up for debate. Drop your thoughts below. I want to know, do you see what's really happening, or are you still clinging to the script?